Let's check in now on the next part of activity one, which is to place power panels in each of the power zones. And as I said, the power panels, we're going to use something called a lighting and appliance panel board. It's 208 volts. They're magnetic lockout. Okay, so the circuit breaker is a mag style, and we're just going to use a 225 amp. We'd let somebody else actually do the final calculations and things like that. So we just put in a great big one, and if it turns out we only need 40 amps or we need 100 amps, it's very easy to change later on. So we just put the biggest one in. Now, there are a few things that we need to talk about. When we make circuits, we have to figure out how to name the circuits. And so we're going to use the panel name dash circuit breaker number. We're going to use the panel to set our circuit names, and we're just going to use a dash. Okay, and then we'll get into some of this stuff, the 120 to Y and the tag by category. We'll get into that in a moment. So let's come on over here, and I'll start out with the I'm going to do this for each of the power zones, but let's start out with admin 1. Okay. Well, let me just start out with the main one. We're just setting our panels. Okay, so to set a panel, you'll go to Systems, and I'm in my power distribution panel, and it's electrical equipment. So if I click electrical equipment, yeah, I might as well project. If I click on my equipment, this comes up. This is one of the things I can put in that comes preloaded. And I said we'd use a 225 amp. Okay, and now I can just put them on a wall. Put them on any wall. So I'm going to go place, 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 and place. Okay, so I'm going to place one here, one here, one here, one here. Okay, so that's just placing them. Okay, and then I've got to go in and I've got to set the circuit naming and make sure that I've got everything set up for it. Okay, so I can come in and I can zoom in on it and I can just click on it, and this is my main panel. Okay, this one's going to feed all the others, so I'm going to call it DTL main. And so that's over here, and look at all this, all this stuff that shows up. We're going to ignore all that till we get down a little bit lower. And it's DTL main, Signtech Lab. That's the main power panel. You'll notice that I've got 12 circuits. Now I can change that. If I run out later on, I can change that. Not a problem. Okay. And so there we go. And I'm circuit naming by panel name. And if I click on here, those are just available. So I'm going to use circuit naming as by panel name, and the circuit separator is just a dash, and I type it in there. And then I'm just verifying. I do want 120/208Y. That was already in there. Okay, and my electrical data, it says there's 4 wires, 3 phases, and what's coming in is 208 volts, 3 phase. Let's see what that means. Okay, I got a little picture over here. This is actually showing that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 wires. So, your electrical purveyor, SMUD, PG&E, whoever it is, going to bring 4 wires. and stick it in the top of the box. One of those wires is neutral. We call that ground. Okay, and then there's 3 other wires. And they're all kind of hooked together in a way. It's called a Y configuration because it looks like a Y. Okay, and what PG&E will do is they'll bring the power in from a transformer in a Y connection so that you get 120 volts between each leg and ground. There's 120 volts if I hook into this wire and make my circuit go all the way back to the neutral and hook into here. So from the neutral to the end of any one of these, and again, we make a circuit that goes, the electricity always goes in a circle. So this one would go down here and over and around to the neutral, and that would deliver 120 volts. Okay? And if I went through this one, 120 volts. Okay? But if I attach 2 of these ends together, I get 208 volts. And that's just the way the power works. Okay, so that's called a Y. 3-phase, 4-wire, Y. And that's what we're seeing right here. 3-phase, 4-wire, and that gives me 208 volts or 120 volts. That gives me some latitude. If I'm just putting in a plug like for a light or a computer or something, those are 120. But if I've got a bigger piece of equipment, a mill or a lathe or a parts washer or a pump or something like that, I can get 208 volts, which is more. Okay, so I set this one up. And then I have to do the same thing on each of these. I have to go click on it. And where I go. And I have to do the same thing. I have to come zipping down here. And yours won't have all those numbers at first. But I'll have to give it a name. So I called it admin 1. And I did panel name dash 128.208Y. That's already there. That's all that's available. It's set up that way. So you're going to give them all a name. Then you're going to, let's see, where the next is to tag by category. So each one of these gets tagged by category. So that's in annotate, tag by category, and you just come down and you click on it. Now, you're going to have to change it because it doesn't show much when you do a normal tag. So let's edit that tag. I double clicked on it and I click on here, and then I'm going to edit the label. And the label should have panel name, family name, and total connected current. Remember to put your brakes so they line up 1, 2. And this is just typical. This often gets done this way. So I'm showing you a common way to do it. Okay, so that when you tag it, then you get a name. It says it's a lighting and appliance board 208 volt MLO, magnetic lockout, and it's a 114 amp connected to it right now. Okay, so that's what we want on here. And then when I come over to my system browser, let me show you how to open your browser. User view, user interface, click on it, system browser. Okay, and then I'm going to look at electrical. Only want to see my electrical. Then when you open it up, it'll tell you you've got some power. You've got some unnamed source I don't know where that's coming from yet. But then DTL main, which we put in first, has these three attached to it. So now I've got to do one more thing. I need to attach each of these to my circuit. Okay? So when you click on it first, this is going to come up and it's going to say power. Okay? But you can select a panel that it goes to. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to click the power button and you're going to select the panel that feeds this. And so you'll select DTL main. And then you'll go to the next power panel and you'll click on it. And you'll click the power button that shows up. And you'll select the power panel. Those two. Let me just put a new one on here so that you can. There we go. I've got a new one. You have a new one. See how it has a power button? And then you'll select your panel. It goes to select panel. And it shows up on my list. Now I'm going to list. So that's how you get your panels all hooked up. Place the power panels. Get them all hooked up. Make sure that you've got all this correct, the 128.208Y, and then tag by category, and remember to edit tag.